Well, that's right. Putin said it himself that Russia wants the end of this war. Special military operation, as soon as possible. While in the meantime, Ukraine liberated another major city in the east and started crossing the rivers. Several other reports claim that Ukraine wants to ramp up its counteroffensive in the south and liberate Kherson by the end of October, with their next target being obviously Crimea. But what about the Russians? Well, they fired a very expensive missile from a multi-million-dollar jet just to terminate birds. But more about all of this in a couple of minutes. What's up, investors? It's the Russian dude. Let's go straight to the point and talk about the situation in the east. First of all, as you can see from this video from Russian city of Valuiki, a local electrical equipment has been destroyed, leaving the entire city without an electricity. The authorities immediately blamed Ukraine for these attacks, but the local residents reported that these missiles came from Luhansk direction. Our next video comes to us from Belgorod, and as you can see right here, a convoy of 12 police trucks was spotted transporting prisoners. And most likely, these prisoners are being transported to do a military training and later they'll be sent to Ukraine. And I was talking about Russia recruiting prisoners in my previous episode. And finally, we go to Luhansk. And as you can see from this video, an explosion happened in the Prosecutor General office building in the city center. And as a result of this attack, Russian infiltrators who are at the same time Prosecutor General and Deputy Prosecutor General have been eliminated. Alright, and now let's talk about the first major part of the video, which is Ukrainians creating the conditions to launch the second wave of its counteroffensive in the east. First of all, and it is way more important than it seems, is that Ukraine was able to cross the river to the right side of Kupiansk. And if you remember, one of the major requirements of a successful counteroffensive is to not have water obstacles on your way. And then we go a little bit more to the south. And even though this map does not fully reflect this yet, there are reports that Ukrainians established full control over Studionek and Sosnowe. And as you can see, both of these towns are on the right side of the river, which once again means that Ukrainians were able to cross it. And finally, as you can see right here, Ukrainians were able to push Russians away from Bilohirivka. And this city is considered to be one of the major cities in this area because it gives Ukrainians access to the roads to Lysychansk. So what do we have at this very moment? First of all, Ukrainians were able to cross rivers next to Kupiansk and next to Sosnowe and Studionek. And second is that Ukraine is about to take full control over one of three major cities in this area, the city of Bilohirsk, with the other two being Liman and Yimpil. And if you remember from my previous episodes, two main things that Ukraine needs to achieve before launching the second wave of the counteroffensive in the east is to first of all cross the rivers, and they are already doing this, and second, capture major cities to the south in this area. And as soon as they will be able to do it, this is when the liberation of the rest of the east is expected to happen. Alright, and before we talk about Ukrainians ramping up its counteroffensive in Kherson, allow me to quickly show you a little bit more footage from the south. And while I'm going there, please consider liking this video and subscribing to my channel if you like this style of daily updating. Alright, so the first news comes to us from Berdyansk, and it is reported that Russian infiltrators responsible for creating the separation referendums, Oleg and Lyudmila Boyko, are now eliminated. Then we go to Melitopol, and as you can see from this video, Ukrainians attacked the local airport, which Russians were using for their military planes. Our next stop brings us to Kryvyi Rog, where once again for the third day straight, the city has been under attack. And finally, this video comes to us from Kherson, where the main building of Russian infiltrators in this region has been attacked. And according to the main collaborator in Kherson, Kirill Stremausov, 5 HIMARS missiles came directly into his office. And what I personally imagine happened is this. My name is Kirill Stremausov, and I just survived 5 direct hits from Ukrainian Nazis. But okay, if you want to see more footage from this attack, as well as other footage that I was not able to use in today's episode, please consider checking my Patreon. All the proceeds will be donated to Ukraine, and you can find all the useful links down below. Alright, and now let's talk about the second major part of the video. According to the military expert Oleg Zhdanov, Ukraine has all the possibilities to push Russians away from Kherson by the end of this October. According to him, next month Ukraine might move very close to the left side of Dnipro River. And the reason for this, it is because the remaining Russian soldiers in this area, they have a big deficit of ammunition. And at the same time, since all the major bridges are practically unusable, there is no resupply of this ammunition from the south. So right now Ukraine is basically exhausting them, and eventually they will push the remaining forces away from this part. Then it is also confirmed by Mikhailo Podolyak, who is saying that the liberation of Kherson is a very much detailed and planned mission. He's basically confirming the words of Oleg Zhdanov, who is saying that the remaining Russians are sitting on very limited supply of ammunition. And as soon as they have nothing left to protect themselves, they will most likely just run away from this part of Kherson. And in the end, Mikhailo Podolyak also mentioned that the next target after Kherson will be the liberation of Crimea. But what about Russia? Do they even do something? Well, as you can see from this video, they fired a very expensive missile from a multi-million-dollar jet to destroy a bridge section which was occupied by probably Nazi birds. But according to the report by the Ministry of Defense of Russia itself, they were able to destroy a boat with hundreds of Ukrainian paratroopers. This bridge section is located somewhere in the Zaporozhye region and was actually built by Nazis back during the Second World War, which I think makes it a legitimate military target for Russians. And you know what? If you move further from the screen and squint your eyes, I guess it does kinda look like a boat with Ukrainians. But okay, here is the final major event of the day. Today, President Putin held some kind of a press conference, and he himself acknowledged that Russia wants this special military operation to be over as soon as possible. But at the same time, whenever he was asked, so why don't you just talk with Zelensky, his reply was like, "It is not me, it is Zelensky that doesn't want to talk with me." And even though his voice and the body language most certainly changed since the beginning of the war, he still mentioned that the main purpose is to liberate Donbass, but this time they're not in a rush to do it. And finally, whenever he was asked what does he think about the counteroffensive of Ukraine, he said, "Bring it on, let's see what they got and let's see how successful they will be." And by the way, speaking about his body language, if you want to see exactly how it changed all the way from February until now, feel free to join my Discord. And yes, it's completely free. I now want to personally say thank you to Alison Moyers, Mark Gorey, H open parenthesis X close parenthesis equal sign, Ruarit McDonald, David Moyers, Peter Briggs, Dave Taylor, John Kelsel, and Black Cat Gypsy Shoni for becoming my most recent channel members. And if you want to support my work and unlock some benefits, please consider becoming my channel member as well. Thank you so much for your attention, follow me on Instagram, stay safe, and see you on Monday.